I'm taking way too long to do this, so fuck it, let's go. Today we're talking about the postmodern superhero concept. Now there's pretty much one thing all these games have in common, which is the aspect of unlocking skills to become more powerful and achieve a higher level of freedom within each game. The games we're going to talk about and compare are Infamous and Prototype, kind of against but not really, Saints Row 4 and Crackdown. Prototype and Infamous, two of the most goated action-adventure games. Nah, that's dead. I'm going to keep calling them postmodern superhero games. It sounds way smarter. Both dropping in the edgiest era of all time, the late 2000s, specifically the year of 2009, and both becoming huge successes, amassing mostly positive reviews from most game outlets and reviewers. Why, you ask? Because they really make you feel like a superhero. And now I'm just kidding. But if I could pinpoint three things all these games shared, it would be the sense and scale of power you felt within the gameplay, the sense of morality that came from the freedom to approach things how you wanted, done differently in both games but definitely present, and lastly, the intriguing, but more importantly, edgy main characters with their deep backstories to back it up. Now I'm going to start with the story as it's all sort of entangled within the first 2 points anyway, but it'll be quick, I promise. So in Prototype, you play as Alex Mercer, a doctor who can now suddenly shapeshift and doesn't understand or remember why. Throughout the game, you work with your sister to find and literally eat, yes, eat people from your past and like absorb their memories and shit. And you're doing this to basically uncover the truth about the Blacklight virus spreading throughout Manhattan, while also simultaneously being hunted by Blackwatch, a Black Ops unit trying to contain the virus. And Infamous, Cole, a bike courier on a delivery, is told to open a package. Unknowingly, he activates a device known as a ray spear, triggering a fat fucking explosion, almost killing him but instead giving him electrokinesis. Obviously, he's blamed for this and he begins working with an FBI agent to restore power to the city. This gets the attention of two groups, the First Sons led by Kessler and the Dustmen led by Alden. Kessler obviously wants to stop the crackhead Alden, who wants to reactivate the sphere. Things get pretty crazy from this point on, but by the end you learn the truth about Kessler, and you're left with two choices, to either save the city or bring on its destruction. See? Quick. Both start off their stories perfectly, massive set pieces that have you so baffled, but still fully engaged. And honestly, any game that starts you off with that, what the fuck is going on feeling, is doing something right. You're thrown headfirst into the chaos, just wanting to know what the hell is happening. Then as things unravel and the story becomes clearer, you, alongside the main character, gain a sort of newfound confidence and freedom, which then leads me into the gameplay. Now, the genius of both these games is that they basically become open world sandboxes. In both games, you interact with the world mainly using your powers, other than pressing a button to start a mission or go through a door, obviously. So think GTA, but replace the guns and cars with powers and abilities. The only difference is just their powers. Cole, the infamous guy, uses electricity, and Alex Mercer has this virus that essentially turns him into venom. So of course, in both games you start off pretty weak, that's just standard, you're slow as hell, you only have like one ability, and in Cole's case, you probably can't absorb as much electricity and have like one poopy blast. You can't use cars or regular old boring transport, but they can both free run, jumping over cars and trains and scaling buildings like it's nothing, which later becomes intertwined with your powers, allowing you to grind on rails, dash through the air, glide around, and I can't lie, all of this just makes free roaming the most satisfying thing in these games. Now let's compare the other two games on the list. Saints Row 4, which I'm sure most of you know, but again, quick recap. The Saints own America at this point in the series, and you are now the president. But this alien guy blows up Earth, and you and your crew live on this spaceship like it's Mass Effect, and you go through portals to, I think, previous versions of Earth to basically recruit classic crew members and eventually go take this guy down. And Crackdown is more similar to the original Saints Row concept, except you're a specialized police officer whose job it is to crack down on the various gangs in the city. Now, not the most compelling stories ever, but still pretty fun in terms of gameplay. Like in Saints Row, because the Earth you play on is now virtual, you have powers like super speed, super jumps, telekinesis, and loads more. And in Crackdown, you have specific aspects you can level up, like your agility, your strength, driving, shooting, explosives, whatever. Where these games differ is their execution. Remember how I said in the other two games, all your interactions with the world are connected with your powers? Well, in Saints Row and Crackdown, there's still plenty of other options for you to use, which isn't really a bad thing, obviously, but it doesn't really make sense either when you have these next level upgrades. Like, why would I get in a car and drive to the next POI or mission when I can literally jump and run across buildings like the fucking Hulk? And why would I use a gun when I can just falcon punch enemies and one-shot them? These additions to the game start to feel pointless, but you're still kind of forced to use them in specific situations, instead of giving you the freedom to do things how you want. I guess you can still mix it up, but honestly you probably won't. Like, it doesn't make sense to. Especially in Saints Row's case, I feel so sorry for the team who spent so much time on customization for cars and guns, only for them to be left in the dust by the team coming up with the powers for the game. I feel like I should explain more, but I don't know, I'm sure that makes sense, right? So moving on to the sense of morality I was talking about. In Infamous, there are genuine choices that you make that shape your character and change small details within the story here and there. This makes sense for a game of this genre. Forcing you to play a specific way would probably sour the experience. And in Prototype, there isn't a fully built-in morality system, but trust me, there's definitely ways of feeling a true villain in this game. From the standard deciding whether to consume someone and stealth your way into a government building, or just going in full guns blazing. And the more subtle, but still fun, grabbing your targets, or even just randos on the street and just holding them off the edge of a building, staring at them. Listen, I know it sounds a bit crazy, but getting into the role of a truly evil force to be reckoned with in Prototype is too much fun. But in the end, I guess you're still committing these heinous acts to stop the virus, so you're more of a Punisher type villain. Until the sequel, where, spoiler alert, Alex has basically accepted his dark side and becomes the main antagonist of the game. Now, the reason I made this video was kinda to understand why these games, including Crackdown and Saints Row 4, work so much better when we know nothing about the character as compared to already established heroes that we'd love to play as in these scenarios. I honestly think it comes down to that morality system. Most heroes are just heroes. So running around as Spider-Man beating up civvies makes zero sense, which means most superhero games with actual licensed characters pretty much have no choice but to set you on a strict linear path where your sense of freedom is replaced with responsibility, and your skill set and powers are grounded to fit specific situations instead of you using them how you want. One game that somewhat managed to bypass this was DC Universe Online. But again, it could only do so by letting you create your own character and also selecting the path that you wanted to go down. But by giving you powers we're familiar with, it's as close as it gets to a real licensed superhero game where your choices are yours to be made. Except the fact that it's an MMO and the missions are just go here, defeat wave enemy, go here, protect this thing, blah 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 blah. I wonder if there's any characters out there that could be shoved into this type of game without compromising on the freedom and power that I crave so fucking bad. I'd say most of the ones that could work don't really have mystical or magical powers anyway. They just end up being really powerful humans like Punisher or Daredevil. Who knows, maybe Insomniac's upcoming Wolverine game can prove me wrong. I hope so. We'll see. If you were to ask me for a solution, it would definitely be to combine these two types of morality systems within Prototype and Infamous. It's quite possible it's been done already, but let me explain. Now, you have Infamous's morality system, which warps and changes your character's abilities depending on whether you make good or evil choices. Now, throw away the choices. Not entirely, but make them more subtle like Prototype's. So in Prototype, the story nor Alex is affected by these choices you make. However, it would be fucking amazing if the way you played your missions affected how the world and others perceived you. So if you decide to go in guns blazing and cause a lot of collateral damage, you lose popularity within the city. Similar to Dishonored, where you don't need to be told of your bad choices, but you notice it. For example, if you keep killing people, more rats and weepers spawn in the city of Dunwall, and your daughter starts saying and drawing some creepy shit. So in Prototype's case, or this new imaginary game I'm coming up with, I guess, people in the streets may start shouting at you, maybe there's more crime happening, or maybe there's less because people begin to fear you. Another interesting example is if you're more hero orientated, the game could borrow an aspect from Saints Row, where you can recruit other heroes and government/federal officials to aid you on your mission. Maybe the game doesn't just end up being good or evil and you become one of those vigilantes who brings balance with brute force. Think of the possibilities, bro. It'd be insane. It'd be a lot of work too, obviously, but 100% worth it if you ask me. It perfectly merged the idea of you continuing to grow more powerful and influential within the game world, but also still tailored to the way you chose to do it. I should make video games. I'm actually a genius. Honestly, I don't have much more to say. I was just sitting on this idea for a very long time and I wanted to get it out there. So tell me what you think specifically about this idea of true morality warped games, if that makes sense. Or just let me know your thoughts on the games I talked about. It was good talking on here again. Like it if you like it, subscribe if you didn't. I'll see you next time in a bit.